Okay, good afternoon all. So today's session is about how to write a project report. It is very important session in terms of your final year project reports. Those who are pursuing masters, those who are planning to go for MBA and MS or MTech, and this guidelines is kind of general guidelines, and you can follow them throughout your life. Even if you do PhD, same guidelines will be followed. So let's start with the first thing, that is the first page of your project report. um, I guess my screen is visible to you all. So let me show you what is to be done. So I will explain you about the latex later. First we'll see what is to be must be included into your report. So I'm turning on the annotation also. First you have to write the project title, that is what a report you are making it for. There are two kinds of reports you have to do if you are having a group. So first, it's the college copy, which will have name of every one individual in the group, and then there will be your individual copies. So if you are three members in the group, so 3 plus 1 for college, or college requires 2 sometimes for library. So total 5 copies per group. Now these 3 copies which will have your individual name will remain with you, whereas the other 2 copies which will have name of everyone should be submitted to either 1 copy to department, 1 copy to the library. Now while mentioning your name, you should always mention your name and roll number. Okay, so it is not mentioned here correctly, so that is a mistake in this particular report. So you should have your name into bracket, roll number. Now branch, you can enter here, or you can write in partial fulfillment of. So there is a standard format for the report. In the partial fulfillment of the degree of, then it will say BTech in electronics engineering. So this is a standard wording you have to use while making the first page. Then comes your university logo. So basically this logo, it's still you are a Mumbai University student, so you have to use the same logo, continue to use the same logo. um, I will go to the next page now. So yeah, then comes your supervisor information. So let me just clear the annotations. Okay, so next thing is after you put a logo. Now logo may not be in the center, it could be at the base also. So this is what I was telling about. This thesis is submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements of degree of bachelors of technology. And then you might have supervisor or co-supervisor. So it depends like this. Now you might have some PhD supervisor, so generally you can ask him whether he is a professor or associate professor. You can assign the corresponding designation. Not everyone is professor, remember this. Professor is the only person who is PhD and completed 3 years as an associate professor, then only he gets that degree of professor. So this extension is very important when you put it for your guide. Now, since I am associate professor, I like to put Dr. Ninad instead of Professor Ninad. And it is okay to write Mr. if that fellow is not PhD and not professor also. But don't put randomly prof for everyone. Now, some faculty, they are not PhD but still has received professor because they are very old. And during that time, only BE person after completing 3 years of experience becomes associate, plus 5 years of experience becomes professor. So there are some people who are not PhD, still they are professor. So in general you can write prof, but if he is PhD and if he wants to put, don't put professor doctor, that is not correct. So never put two prefixes together in front of your name as well as your guide's name. Then comes the college engineering title. So that also you can see, it's really common for all, but it depends on which college you are studying in. So we will put KJ Somaya College of Engineering. Now there is a mistake here. If you look at this carefully, it has to be K.J. So whenever you are putting something, you have to put it very carefully. So this is about the first page, which is also going to be embossed onto a black paper, and that's why the name Blackbook came for this particular thesis. It's basically a project report or a thesis. Now, what is the difference between a project report and a thesis? Is once you do a project and write a report on it, it's actually called as project report. Now, we assume that if there is any research involved in that particular project, we call it as a thesis. Outside everywhere, you always call it a thesis because that is a requirement of your degree, and that's why a thesis submitted. Thesis is typically for the masters and PhD, not for bachelors. So project report, we call it as a thesis, but actually it's a project report. Now, this is it's not University of Sydney, Australia, so it is how it should come, the University of Mumbai, India, and the date is very important. So this dates tell you on what day it got completed or this book was printed. Then you have to print two copies of this, one on a white paper, which will come in front of your black book, as well as your black book itself with a golden embossing of all this. Nowadays, they give a golden printout on a black paper, which also works fine. Anything. They used to actually emboss these golden letters, but nowadays it's just a golden print. So this is how the first page should be. Next is abstract. Now there is no sequence as such. Sometimes people put dedication. This thesis is dedicated to my father or whatever. So you can give that. You want to dedicate something about this thesis. You can write that, and then you come to the abstract. Now remember, abstract is a part of the report which you have to write within, let's say, 1 page or half page. So typically, this entire page should go for abstract. It should consist of 3 paragraphs if it is a big report, or 2 paragraphs. First paragraph is about introduction and briefly what you have done, and then next paragraph is about what you achieved and what are the future aspects. So this is how the 2 paragraphs of the abstract goes. Now if it is a very long thesis, then you can also mention in first paragraph introduction, what are the gaps, and then typically you should always follow a page called nature summary paragraph. So you can search for this. uh, those who are not aware of this, Nature is the #1 journal in the world, and then you can just search for Nature summary paragraph and it should pop up. I don't know, I have typed something. So Nature summary. So this is a standard template that we have for nature summary paragraph, how to write your paper, nature summary. So this is a PDF which you can open for everything. You can download it. It's getting downloaded now. And now you can construct a nature summary paragraph over here. So basically this paragraph will tell you a detail about how to write information. Let me check whether it got downloaded or not. Okay, so it's already downloaded. I can just open it. So basically, the first line is basic introduction to the field. Now remember, this is a common way to construct any abstract. This introduction line should be for anyone, like even 10th standard person should understand this line. It's a common line of opening. Next comes is two sentences which gives more detailed background. Now this is for the electronics engineers. If your thesis is in electronics, these 2 lines should be easily familiar with the electronics, giving the detailed background. So introduction is what you're doing in single line. If I ask you to answer this question, you will do that. And then detailed background is, as an electronics engineer, if you answer the same question in one more line, like 2 more lines, then you can use this more detailed background. Then what is the problem statement? A general and clearly mentioned problem statement comes at the 3rd line. 4th line is how we do it. So that is very important, how we achieved it. Next is main results that we achieved from doing this. Then finally, general context and a broader perspective. What is the use of doing this to the society? So this is how you write a abstract. So if you are writing a research paper, if you are writing a thesis abstract, whenever you see a abstract or a summary, you should always follow this paragraph. So let us go back to the report now. So this is about the abstract. Next comes the acknowledgement. So here you should thank everyone who has helped you into your project, and you should not miss a single person. So acknowledgement could be blank if you have done everything on your own, but typically, even a shopkeeper who arranges components for you and not getting paid for that particular job should be acknowledgement. So who don't have a financial benefit but still helps you is worthy of an acknowledgement for this particular page. Next is content. So typically three contents are required. First content is abstract, acknowledgement, content. So you will see there is a special Roman numbering for this till you go to the chapter 1. This is very important. So your chapter 1 starts with actual numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. Till that, all the pages are called preamble of the manuscript or preamble of the thesis, and they should be in Roman numbered. So typically what people do is create three docs, and first doc is preamble, then actual chapters, and finally postamble. So this is how you create your report. Now this content is basically, you should see the format: chapter 1 introduction, so it will have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 and so on. Similarly, chapter 2, there is a tab, then you start with 1.1, then put dot dot dot, and page number should be aligned into the same manner. So if there are spaces, you have to fill it with the dots, and then you have to put. So it is very difficult to do these kind of things in the Word. It's always best to do this once you complete the report. So typically contents are auto generated in LaTeX. So those who are familiar with the LaTeX should always go for LaTeX version, but those who are doing it Word, it's really difficult. So in Word also you can generate a automatic content by using a header and subheader. Like in Word, I will show you where is that option, but then you can automatically generate the contents. Also there is something called a citation. We go into the detail about that also, but this is about the contents page. Now once your contents page gets over, then comes your list of figures. So each and every figure and its corresponding page number should be mentioned here. Along with that, two more pages are required, which is list of tables, okay, and then abbreviations or physical constants or acronyms. So whatever you are using, you have to mention it at the first pages, that is in the preamble of your thesis. So this, and remember the Roman numbering. Now comes to the chapter 1. So basically your thesis should be divided in following chapters. The first chapter is introduction, that will introduce the reader to the topic. Second chapter is a literature review. So by the end of your 7th semester, we expect you to complete at least chapter 1 and chapter 2, may not be completing the implementation part. So chapter 1, chapter 2, and maybe future direction. These are the three chapters we expect from your 7th sem report. But other than that, introduction is always the first chapter, even if it is your final report. The second chapter is literature review, in which you will refer all the related work already done by the people. The third thing is methodology, which is basically a chapter on how you did it, or it's like a step-by-step procedure. If somebody else wants to do your project, it should be a step-by-step instructable type, a straightforward given every step in detail with photograph. So that is your methodology, chapter 3. Now methodology generally have for electronics engineer two parts. One is hardware and second one is software. So software will include flow graph and algorithms and so on. And your hardware will have list of components, its data sheet, etc., etc., etc. So that is under your methodology. Now datasheet, you don't put it into the methodology, you will just put it into the appendix of the report. Remember this. Now chapter 4 is about results. So what you have achieved with your results, that you put into your chapter 4, it must be the most detailed and important paragraph. Most of you just end up making a project but do not do a sufficient testing, that is to form a results chapter. And typically results chapter for most of the black book is 1 or 2 page, which is not correct. Once you make the machine, you should test it rigorously, and your results chapter should be the biggest one. Next comes the thing that is called as discussions and future scope. Here, generally, we have a limitation of something, maybe money, or your project is not working, or whatever reason it got burnt, whatever is happening, you can write it into your discussion section. So, discussion is like a soft name for disadvantage or limitations of it, your project. And future scope is something which you think we can do, but you could not do it. So everything of that sort goes to the future future scope chapter. Next, last chapter of the thesis is always the conclusion. Now remember, each individual chapter doesn't have conclusion. So last section of the each chapter should be summary, and the final chapter should be conclusions. Always it's apostrophe s, because you there are multiple conclusions. So you sorry, not apostrophe s. It's like conclusions. Don't write conclusion. Even discussions, future scope, and methodology, and so on. So let's go chapter by chapter. First, introduction. Remember, do not do any copy pasting. Even if your report is of 10 pages, okay, but never copy paste anything from the internet. Now, how to then write everything? So first thing, you read everything, you write it into your mother tongue or whatever, and then give it to the Google translator to translate. That's how you can write it originally. um, Best way is you read it, you take a break, have a lunch, dinner, and then write it on a fresh piece of paper without referring any internet connection, so that there will be a originality. So original writing is very important, and that is what matters the most in the report. If you copy paste, it's like a digital thief, and it's a crime outside. Not, at least in India, nobody is arresting you for copy pasting anything from the internet, but at least in Germany and USA, it's a punishable crime. If you get found doing that, they can punish you up to 6 months, and there is a heavy fine also. So do not have that habit of copy pasting things from the internet. You read them, okay, you understand what they want to say, and then you write. You have already a habit of writing 3 hours paper without referring any book or any internet source, and you write more than 30 pages in those 3 hours. So writing a half paragraph for you is not a big deal, and that's why you should always write on your own. Now there are multiple writing tools available. Now I will suggest one of the most important is a Grammarly. Now, if you are not confident about your grammars, you can just open a Grammarly, and then you can just type in there directly. It's a notepad like structure, but it will also show you if there is any spelling mistake. It will show if anything grammar is getting wrong. It will show you. So it shows something like this, and then you click onto it. It will suggest you also what is the correct spelling for that. So once you click it, it should suggest you online how to correct that particular statement. And also it will also show you the synonyms for that particular word, and that makes life much more easier, because then you don't have to worry about the things that see, equal name or something like that. So Grammarly is the best way to write your own things, and even to correct the spellings, you just have to click once here. It will show you what is the correct spelling. You just click and it corrects it for you. Now there are some premium advanced options. You don't worry about it. It's a free software. You should always install it to your Chrome also, so that none of your documents having a spelling mistake or a grammar error. So that is one thing, Grammarly. The second best thing to use, see, there are still some people who don't understand that changing these observations by its equal synonym doesn't mean you are writing original. This is not a original writing. This is still a plagiarism. So remember this, changing 1 or 2 words here and there, or changing active tense to passive tense, is not what you call original writing. It's still a plagiarism, and there are advanced software which checks for all the synonyms also, and they catch the plagiarism. So don't do that also. There is no chance that a final year student should do any kind of plagiarism anywhere. Original writing is only thing that matters. Even if you write 10-page report, but that is 0% plagiarism is worthy than writing 600-page report all copy pasted. Okay, so make that thing very clear. If you still want to, it's like unofficial, if you still want to do it now, I don't want to write on my own, then you use something called as article spinners, where you put a line, then you ignore any word if you want to ignore, and then spin that word, so it will just generate its equivalent text. Also it will ask for some captchas, and spinbot will allow you to translate that all the values into a new lines. This is a one way of rewriting, but that is not a good way to do it. We should never do it. Those who you will see both the sentence are not having the same meaning, because it has randomly replaced it. This statement doesn't make the same sense as the original one. Now you take this sentence and put it into your Grammarly, and now you can correct if you want all the new way of writing that particular line. But I would highly recommend, don't use any such softwares. It is always best to write on your own. Let's go back to our chapter 1 now. Now, what are the things required in chapter 1? So I have already told you about the main paragraph. So introduction chapter should have following things. First is introduction to the project. Second is aim of the project. Third is objective of the project. Fourth is basically what are the problems, existing problems, and what is your solution. So these are the things should have be included into your chapter 1, and they should be included as a subsections. Then comes your final part of the chapter, which is called as what you have into the next chapter. So this is where each chapter will have its own summary, and then this particular chapter 1 will also have a section on what is there into the thesis. So you will summarize each and every chapter in one line in this chapter, including chapter 1 also. So this is how you write your chapter 1. Next, you go for chapter 2, which is a literature review. Now, literature review is typically at the end of the day, it should be a tree diagram. So all the papers that you read should fit into this tree. So literature review will have only two main components. That is what is the paper is about. Okay. So let's say this terminal RS1 T14 is the first. Termite RS1 T14 is the first kind of firefighting robot that paper they have read. So this paper will have 3 lines about that paper into your main thing, where what they have done, what was a good thing they have done, and where they lack. So these are the 3 lines per paper you have to write, and then you note down that paper, and there could be a diagram which you take from that particular paper, but you have to cite it properly. So this is how literature review chapter is to be done. Typically for BE project, we at least expect 15 papers to be reviewed. Now for finding out the best 15 papers suitable or similar to your work, you have to actually search 45 papers. So you can do 15 people, 15 papers per person to write this chapter. You can have more than 15 papers also, but 3 lines per paper is must. What they have done, what was good that they have done, and what was bad, or what was the lacking point, gap in their research. While writing any literature review, you should always cite that particular literature review. Now there is a citation template you should always use. It's called, let's say this is the first paper, then you write something like written by something like this is the last name of the first author. So Each paper will have its own author. Then you write the last name of the first author. Then in italics you write ETAL, that is et al. That is in Italian means bache hue ya baki ke. So it's basically the first author last name like Mehendale et al. And then you cite that particular paper means in rectangular brackets. You give that particular paper's number. Now, if this is the first citation in your thesis, then you give in rectangular bracket 1. That is the first paper in our thesis. So something like a rectangular bracket here, and then you give a number. I will try to show it to you here. I think they have not cited. Okay, so there must be a citation required for that particular paper, and each and every paper will be cited. Now, these sections doesn't mean one full paper. Let's say this SOR and Sapphire, both robots were on the same data type or same working, just a slight modification. Then they both can go as a single subsection where there will be 2 citations from this subsection. So total of 6 lines. There could be 8 papers together with 24 lines in a single paragraph. And this is how you do your literature search. Every literature paper that you use, try to take one diagram for it from them, and also don't forget to cite that diagram. That is very important. So I will just tell you how to cite it properly. Let's go back to your Grammarly. So if Amy, let's say Mehendale, I am the first author. So first name of the special word or the person name should be always capital. So I will write Mehendale, then ETAL dot. Now this has to be in italics, and then into rectangular bracket, let's say my paper number is 1. So this is how you write, and then below 1 you will give a full citation for this Mehendale. Now let's see how to give that. You have to go to the website called Google Scholar. So make sure all the papers you search are from the reputed source. So go to this website called Google Scholar, and then on Google Scholar you search for firefighting bot. Let's say fire give something like that, and this is the paper I want to cite. So you click on this citation here, cite button, and always choose Chicago. So there are different styles of citation. Chicago is the best one because it includes the full name of all authors. That is the only thing. And if you are using LaTeX, you can go for this BibTeX kind of citation. And if you are using EndNote, there are options there, EndNote. For Word, you can use EndNote, Ref Managers, or RefWorks. BibTeX is for Linux or LaTeX. And if you are doing it on your own, always copy this as it is, and while pasting also you have to carefully paste, that is paste with formatting. So you have to right click, and in the Word you get an option called paste with formatting, because there are certain things you need to follow here. That journal name should be in italics, and then the book volume number should be bold, and so on. So that's why you should always paste with source formatting as it is. Don't paste with a destination formatting. So those who are having new Word will have these options. Word 2007 and below that, all versions have only one paste option. So this is how. Now this was not Mehendale, because though I am the author, I am the corresponding author, that is guide. And you should always cite the last name of the first author, where this particular paper is by Dhiman, which is the surname of the Amit, and that's why I have pasted Dhiman et al. Bracket 1 has developed whatever. Everything is in past tense because it has already been done. Don't write this paper shows that, huh? Dhiman et al. Has developed means it's a work. It's not the paper. In their paper, it shows that. Never like that. Write like that. You should always write Dhiman has done this work, and so on. So this is very important. When you do a literature review, it's a work. Remember, it's your project report, not that everyone will say in their project report they wrote. No, it's not like that. They have done in this work. So it's a work. Always remember. So don't write in their paper they mention. It's not correct way to do it, huh? You can, if you are bored writing Dhiman et al style, you can also say the firefighting robot was developed by Dhiman et al. So this is another way. But every time whenever you give any line, it's always better to give citation. Even in chapter 1, during introduction, you took some paragraph, you can generate its citations and put it there. So there are two kinds of citations. Typically, all the good journals will be listed on the Google Scholar, and then you can cite it by the Google Scholar method. There is something called as website citation also. So there is a format to cite particular web page, that is who wrote that web page, when it was last accessed, and then the full link of that particular web page. So this is how you should cite a particular web page. Some people call it bibliography also, but that is not correct. You should always put everything into the references. That is the last part of your chapter, last chapter of your black book, also called as bibliography. Now let's go ahead with the chapter 3 now. I hope you have understood what is to be put for chapter 1 and chapter 2. I will just try to see if I show you something with methodology and equivalent thing. Let me just open one of the already stored documents with me. Maybe, okay, some manuscript. So remember, there are two kinds of manuscript. I will show you what are those and how you can publish them. But basically, the first manuscript is like a literature review manuscript, which doesn't have any results. It's just about your chapter 2. So this particular is a review paper on something something. Now this is abstract, introduction, and then all the different methods, maybe something like robotic arms, and then different gesture based EMG signals and so on. So it's nowhere that we have done this work, and it's all taken read from the internet, and that's why everything will have its own citation. If you see carefully, everything has written last name, then et al, then its citation, and maybe comparison. So this is our own contribution. We have read these many papers, found their accuracies, and now we can tell which one of them is the best. So this table is very important at the end of your chapter 2. So this is about literature review chapter and literature review paper. So we expect by 7th semester end, you should in a position to write your own literature review paper, because this is the time when you start submitting your applications for MS. And before that, you should have at least one paper, but your project will not be ready. So that's why you write a review paper on your project topic. So that is where the seventh semester blue book, or what we call 7th semester project report, is important. Now next thing is your final paper. So I will again show you one example, maybe this, yeah. So this firefighting bot is one of your seniors group, and they have written a manuscript which already got published. I have sent you a link to that also. Their review paper got published, which was sent in their 7th semester, and then they have their main paper also. So maybe in main paper they have all the short review, then comparison, and this is their bot that they have made. So this is how they write the captions. Now remember, chapter 3 is methodology, which should include how you make your bot. So there are the details. And always remember, throughout your thesis, the caption should not be production pathway of firefighting bot. Okay, it should be very detailed, because what will happen most of the times, nobody will read the text around the report. They will just see the picture. आप लोग भी वही करते होंगे, and then just read the caption below it, and that's it. Go to the next. So most of us first will try to see the picture, try to guess what they have done, see the title, and that's it. Nobody is gonna go and read this particular thing. So that's why try to put everything into the caption, so that caption should be 4 to 5 lines long, not smaller than that. So this is how you write your captions for the every figure that you produce into your Blackbook. Now chapter 3 will also have this particular diagram. This is called a flow chart. Now this will be only there for all the hardware plus software project, which is the case nowadays. There will not be a core hardware project where you are building some P channel MOSFET with gain of 52. That is not, nobody's group is doing, I'm sure about it. So you will be using some controller, and there will be some Arduino or C program or Python code that is going inside this algorithm. So for that software, you should have, this is mandatory. There are three things to be drawn for a software. First is flowchart, second is algorithm, and third is data flow diagram. So these three diagrams are required if your project is having some software part. And this is how a data flow diagram or a CNN network will look like. It's basically similar to your block diagram that you draw into your main circuit. Even in PCOM or some subjects you might have drawn. And then comes your results. So results should also be in detail and well presented manner with the help of graph and so on. Also you can compare. Now this chapter discussions will have this particular topic, that is comparison of the current method with the every other method that we have studied in the past. So whatever we have done, we have to compare it. May not be our robot is always the best. So if you see here, our robot speed is just 5, whereas there are robots with the speed of 20 kilometers. So your proposed system may not be best always, but it doesn't matter. Even if it is worst according to this table, it's okay. You have tried something on your own. That is very important. So remember, no project is failure. You cannot fail in the project because your project fails. Remember this. There is a learning curve that always happens. And then table also have this standard format, that is there should be 2 lines. Then there are column headings, and then there are row numbers where you put different technologies or paper, and then there is another black line at the bottom. So this is how a standard report or standard paper looks like. And also it has to be a 1 column. So since it was a research paper, it might be a 1 column or 2 column paper, and no borders, remember that. And even on the top you will have page numbers sometimes at the bottom. And here they write Amit Diman et al. So this is how even journals have referred this thing. Page numbers could be at the bottom or could be at the top. So this is about your results and results chapter. And then future scope is basically whatever you think you can do, just write it. Whether it's possible or not, don't care about it. So that goes under the future scope chapter. And finally the conclusions. So whatever you have done, you have to conclude. Then you have to give references. So references should be in this manner, like Chicago style, which I have told you. And then finally your report is ready with the last thing in the report called appendix. So what is appendix? Appendix is the place where you give your full course. Now this should be the place where you give out all the diagrams which you cannot fit into your main thesis, and even data sheets. So these are the things that go and attach to the appendix. So this is how the entire project report is written. Now if you have any doubts, you can ask. I will stop recording, and this video will be available to you on YouTube also.